And welcome back to 25 Days of Transformational Leadership series, and this is day 5. Today, let's talk about something that we all think that we're good at, but we can all definitely improve on: communication. In my opinion, I believe John C. Maxwell nailed it whenever he said, "Everyone communicates, few connect." So today we're going to learn how to connect. Effective communication is quite literally the backbone of leadership and how to lead people or your team more efficiently. I like to think of effective communication like, if I were Bob Ross, I would paint you a picture. And by the end of that picture, you would know exactly what the painting is about because I've painted it and I've walked you through that process. So just imagine that you're Bob Ross on your way through words and you're just helping people understand you more clearly, more concise. That's a pretty good segue of what number 1 tip is, which is be clear and be concise. I said it before, I'm going to say it again. Say what you mean and mean what you say. I believe in my first or second video I said, let your yes be your yes, let your no be your no. So nice, I said it twice. So say what you mean and mean what you say. Avoid unnecessary details that might confuse your team. Not everything that goes on behind the scenes needs to be brought to the front of the stage. If it's something that can be contained as far as very small, intricate details that don't align with your team members' expertise or their scope of practice, there's no need in worrying them with all the fine details. This may lead to confusion and unnecessary pressure to perform. I don't know about you, but I don't think it's necessary to always perform under pressure whenever peace should always be your portion. But anywho, tip number 2, adapt to your audience. Not everyone processes information the same way. So what might seem like common sense to you won't be common sense to another person, and vice versa. Make sure that you're tailoring your message to the listener's style. I know if I ever need something presented to me, in order for it to be retained in my mind, it's going to need to be a visual picture, visual aid, PowerPoint presentation. I don't care if it has to be drawn up on a whiteboard or if it has to be thrown up on an easel with some butcher block paper and some markers. Whatever it takes to get that thing stamped in my mind so that I know that I am carrying out whatever the set of instructions are. Another way to adapt to your audience means know who you're talking to. If I'm speaking to the visionaries of my team, I need to make sure that there's something that they can visually see. If I'm speaking to somebody who I know is going to be refining the project, they might also need to see something, but I need to give them key details on how to refine that project even better. Another way is if I know that I'm speaking to a bunch of 30-year-olds, I don't need to be briefing them on very elementary terms. And vice versa. If I'm speaking to a high school audience, then I don't need to be briefing them on things that are corporate level and speaking with terminology that's going to go way over their head. They'll miss the message, they'll sleep on you, and they'll cancel Christmas. I don't know. But know your audience and tailor your speech to them. Another way to connect better through effective communication is number 3, ask questions. We all think that it's so simple to ask questions, but sometimes it's more difficult whenever we are just in a autopilot focus. Sometimes it's difficult to ask questions to make sure that the listener actually understands what it is that we have said to them. And sometimes we don't understand everybody's point of view or perspective, so it's really important for us as leaders to ask those clarifying questions. Oftentimes, and we'll talk about this in another episode, but oftentimes whenever you ask a question, someone, based off of your tone, your facial expressions, or your pitch or your rate of your voice, might come across as you are challenging them. So sometimes if you don't know your team very thoroughly and you don't have a personal rapport established with them, make sure that you let them know, like, I'm asking a clarifying question, not to challenge. And that kind of brings down any barriers or any type of defense mechanisms that might arise within a team dynamic, especially if your team dynamic is in a constant storming phase. We want to do things that help the team get to different levels of communication. We always want to be on the lookout to helping your team transition into the norming and performing stages. So any way that you can break down barriers is extremely vital as a leader. Communication is a two-way street. I talked about active listening the other day. Make sure that as you're communicating to your team, you ask for their input and listen actively to what they say. So here's your challenge for the day. In your next team meeting or email, focus on clarity. Review your message before you send it and remove anything that doesn't add value. I like to use Grammarly to help me, but with all these AI tools and gadgets and gizmos aplenty, it's super easy for you to refine the things that you want to say, especially if it's done via email. If you're going to speak publicly, just make sure that you rehearse what it is that you want to say so that you don't sound like a chatterbox or that you don't really have all of your ducks in a row in your brain. Thanks again for joining me on day 5 of our 25-day series of transformational leadership. Again, I'm Instructor Cash, and remember, communication isn't always just about talking, it's about connecting. So I'll see you tomorrow for day 6, where we'll talk about inspiring followership. Merry Christmas. Bye-bye.